Hi Jean-Christophe, it's Tan here today with your video birth chart reading. So thank you very much for purchasing this birth chart reading from me, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If the pronunciation is a bit off, I do apologize for that. So with regards to, the recent events with the pandemic, I hope that you're staying safe wherever you might be right now and that you're healthy. I'm sending you lots and lots of, good health and light and love at this time in our lives. So with regards to your email, you mainly in the reading wanted to know about your transits because you said you have a good knowledge of astrology. So you wanted to know about your transits to the midheaven, any potentials for work, what's your life mission, and what could be some of your talents because you're still searching for that. So that's kind of what I'll be addressing in the video today. But first I want to talk about, things like your personality traits and how those specific personality traits of yours could lead to what a really good life purpose or life mission might be and what your talents are. And then we'll have a look at some of the transits that's going on for you right now. So I'll be looking over there at your birth chart from time to time. So if I'm not looking directly at the camera, that's kind of what I'm doing here. So with regards to your birth time and birth date, you're born on the 13th of March, 1963, 8:20 a.m. In Loin, France. So this means that you have a rising in Aries at 28 degrees. You have a sun in Pisces in the 11th house, and you have a moon in Libra at 24 degrees in the 6th house. I would consider it to be conjunct to your descendant, which is in Libra. So your dominant planet, and this is a very important planet in your chart because it plays a major theme in your life. So if you can turn this planet into a friend rather than a foe, you'll find lots and lots of happiness and success. And your dominant planet is Saturn. And you have Saturn there in the 10th house in the sign of Aquarius. So if I do talk about Saturn in this video, you'll know that you should pay special attention to that part of the video because it's talking about your dominant planet. So with your sun being in the 11th house, it is conjunct to Jupiter in the 11th house. This is a very, very great place to be having the sun, especially when it conjuncts Jupiter like that, meaning that, you're a very likable person. You can be very popular, especially if you were in a position where you are with large groups of people or an organization, where you can be the leader. This is also a good placement for teaching, to be some kind of a teacher, because then you're working with large groups of people. People are very much going to give you the recognition that you deserve. They're likely to see you as being a generous person, being somebody very open, and have a contagious energy about you. So they're likely to, easily want to put you in a position where you can lead, and then they would follow. Very good placement for, the expression of the sun, the self-confidence, and the way that you want to be seen and shine in the world. That's gonna come out very well. Now, with regards to your chart ruler, that's going to be Mars, because your chart is ruled by Aries. So your whole chart is going to be ruled by Mars. Mars falls into your 4th house. So there's a lot of passion within you, meaning that there's a lot of passion deep inside of you, because your Mars also opposes Venus, which is sitting there in the 10th house in Aquarius, conjunct to Saturn. This can, probably, for the earlier parts of your life, make it hard for you to find or be satisfied within a relationship, because you would love to be in a relationship and you would love to have a very nice, good reputation and be seen as somebody who is well established in the world. But once you get that, because your Mars is in the 4th house, it's like oppositions, it's a bit of a split. So once you get that self-establishment with regards to your public life, you can feel that you don't quite, your desires, your deeper desires are not met, or that the home life, the domestic life is not going the way that you want. So there's this push and pull. So then, you push so that your desires could come out, but when it does, people are shocked by it, they could be put off by it, because that's not easily being shown for the world to see in your public life. So, but I do feel that with this aspect, later on in your life, and I think that you have already done this because you've already passed your first Saturn return, meaning that you've learned to compromise, you've learned to tone down that very passionate energy a little bit, to the point where you become someone very attractive to the public. So when we work with oppositions, we kind of make it like a conjunction. So if you could have a Venus conjunct Mars instead of opposite Mars up there in the 10th house, oh, that is a very magnetic, attractive, raw sexiness type of an aura that will make people very drawn to you. And so that's one of the things that is part of your life journey, is what you're learning, what you're kind of evolving to become in this life, shall we say. Okay, where should let's have a look at, so I do think that with regards to your chart, you're meant for the public life, meaning that you're meant to be somebody, generally, but I'll go specifically into more detail later on, but generally you're here to be part of the society and be somebody who makes a huge contribution to the society, improves it in some way, influence the society in some ways, definitely. But there's a bit of a challenge that you have to overcome with regards to that Mars in the 4th house and that North Node, which is in Cancer. And I would consider your North Node to also be in the 4th house as well, meaning that I felt that you could have grown up in a home environment that had a certain amount of disruption or maybe conflict or something unsettling going on within your home environment while you were growing up, that causes you, because then you would have a South Node in the 10th house in Capricorn, it will cause you to strive to achieve. But it could be an achievement for just to get recognized, because you also have Pluto in the 5th house combined with this South Node placement, coming from a place where you really want to achieve purely for the sake of recognition and to be appreciated and seen in the world, and getting a certain amount of, let's say, audience to see your success. But it's a success that could have been done because there's a need to either prove something to the family, to your family, or to get away from what's going on with your family. But with Saturn in the 10th house, I really do feel that, the idea of success for a large part of your life, at least for the first half of your life, your idea of success was more traditional. And I do feel that after your first Saturn return, you're considering this again, of how you can achieve better and more authentic success in the world, because Saturn is an Aquarius. If you could overcome your past difficulties in your home life and in your family, then I think that is when you kind of turn the attention and the energy away from seeking security, internal security from the outside, to really being able to cultivate security from within yourself. And that could mean really being able to find inner peace. Really, you know, being able to make your home life and your domestic life peaceful for yourself. Being able to find emotional fulfillment deep within yourself. And when you can do that, when you can gain a sense of stability in yourself, in your home life, then your focus kind of turns outwards, and then you have so much to give to the world. But I do feel that, you know, for a large part of your life, for maybe half of your life, there's still a lot of push and pull between these two areas, you know, the inner self and the home life and the need to achieve, and then we're going back and forth. But I think we can never fulfill our inner security through an external source. We have to always fulfill our inner security by looking inwards. And once you've done that, then we have so much to give, especially for you. And I do feel that the thing about having a Venus conjunct Saturn is that, and you know, it's in the sign of Aquarius, it's kind of like there are certain values that have been instilled within you with regards to your calling and what you should achieve in the world that is limited, and you're gonna have to break out of that limitation. So this could look like something like, you know, maybe your father, you know, or a fathering figure or a fathering principle in your life imprinting the idea that success, you know, has to be fit in with certain social conventions. And because Venus also represents our values, so the valuing of knowing the consequences of certain actions, knowing the outcome of, you know, what your professional life is all about, meaning that knowing that if you take this route in your career, then you're going to have a certain amount of salary, then you're going to get a promotion at a certain time, then you're going to have a certain position at a certain time. So that is sort of the social, you know, idea, social norms, and that is also safety. So there's a value being put on you with regards to needing to have a professional life and a career that has a certain amount of safety and a guaranteed security. But because it's in the sign of Aquarius, you know, during a certain part of your life, you're gonna break out of that, and you're gonna, you know, be experimenting with something that is not as easily acceptable in the society. So let's talk a bit about what that would look like if you break out of these values that have been imposed on you that may not be true to who you are. You know, if we have a look at that Venus conjunct Saturn, it's in a square to your Neptune in the 7th house. So this is actually instilling a really artistic, creative part of you. There is that part of you that does appreciate a certain amount of art or beauty or entertainment, or having a public image that is very good for the media, sort of like an actor. Or maybe you're very good with acting even, because you do have the Muses asteroid Polyhemnia. That's the asteroid that has to do with acting in a square to your Neptune, exact square. So there's an inner actor. But this also, Polyhemnia in a square to Neptune, can also indicate somebody who is good with the natural metaphysics, or is good with creative spirituality. And I do, and with regards to that, I turned on a couple of other asteroids that's sort of hidden there. Like, for example, I turned on some personality asteroids. So personality asteroids will tell us about the personality that may not be obvious unless we are aware that we have these things within our personality. So you actually have an asteroid called Feronia in your 4th house. And so Feronia is an asteroid of wildlife, health, abundance. It's kind of has this vibe of living off the grid, kind of a vibe, living in nature. And it's in your 4th house, the house of the home, with your Mars, which rules your whole chart. And it's sitting there with, you know, Polyhymnia, which squares your Neptune. So I really do feel that either you could have a bit of a talent within you with regards to the natural metaphysics. So working with nature in some way to heal, for the purpose of healing, or for the purpose of mind, body, soul connections. That could be, you know, one of the things that you would like to be seen as or be known as in the world for. You also have the Muse's asteroid Cleo, which has to do with fame, right conjunct your midheaven. So whatever you decide to do, I just want to mention right here that you are meant to be very popular, meant to be very famous in the world. You can gain a certain amount of fame. So yeah, that is the first aspect, is that you could either have a talent for acting, for being an actor, for being able to be on camera and having a really good presence in some ways, or be very good with the natural metaphysics and creative spirituality that maybe, you know, works with the mind, soul, body connection. This could be anything from, you know, living off the grid, maybe like living in a caravan, and then sort of showing people or giving a message to people about this kind of a lifestyle that is better for everyone's health and well-being and wellness. That's what I'm trying to get here, wellness. That could be one thing. Or maybe you're into nutrition or exercise, yoga, or maybe, you know, that kind of practice that shows people that it leads to a certain amount of well-being. Yeah. So you also have Pluto and Uranus in your 5th house, and that actually makes for a very high level of creativity. So like I said, you know, if it's not acting, then it could be some kind of art form or some kind of creativity that you may have that's almost genius and very different. And Pluto in the 5th house is very powerful. You know, you are born here for special destiny. I mean, you have a special purpose in the world, and you may already have felt that since you were very young. But the thing about this placement, and along with other things in your chart, like I mentioned before, is that when you create something, you really create it from your soul. And if it's not getting the recognition that you hope that it would get, there can be a tendency to sort of scrap the work completely and just, you know, like destroy your own work because it's not getting the recognition that it deserves. But the way to work with Pluto and Uranus in the 5th house here is to take your creative powers, genius ideas, and see and use it for the benefit of humanity. Use it for the benefit of the world. So, and knowing that you're not the sole creator of what it is that you created. There, you know, if you were just born into a desert, you wouldn't really know what to create. But you know what to create because, you know, your ancestors have shown you the way. Or there's, you know, people have left resources for us, you know, in the past that we can use in the present day, and we can create through the resources they've left for us. So the world, the universe is co-creating with you as you are creating. And therefore, whatever you create can never be just for yourself. It's going to have to be given to the world. And if you can view it from that perspective, oh my gosh, this is a place where you're going to be legendary. You know, meaning that your work can really address the psychology of people. And specifically for you, I think you have a very, very good understanding of group psychology. So if your work has a certain message to it that addresses the group psychology, it will be so powerful that it can last in people's minds even, you know, within 100 years from now, let's say. That's the legendary ability that you've got there with regards to, you know, the Pluto placement. So yeah, you have got Jupiter quintile your midheaven. So the quintile is this yellow line in the chart, and it indicates, you know, in astrology, it's part of the fifth harmonic, meaning that if you divide the circle into 5 pieces, you have quintile aspects. And they, you know, the number 5 in numerology has to do with creativity and fun and adventure and because it's playfulness. So when something is very fun and playful, it becomes very creative. And Pluto also trines your midheaven, and Uranus also trines, like Pluto also trines your midheaven, and then Jupiter biquintiles the midheaven, and Neptune sextiles the midheaven. So, you know, it's with Jupiter quintile the midheaven, this is just beautiful, because if you were to try to, let's say, publish or teach and teach anything really, or be some kind of mentor, coaching people, you know, you're gonna have a playful, fun, influential way about you that's you're gonna be able to impact a lot of people. And with Pluto and Neptune, you know, Pluto and Neptune aspecting the midheaven as well, it's not just going to be at a superficial level. So if you were to teach or coach or mentor, your wisdom is not going to be superficial. People will see a certain amount of depth to it. They will see a certain amount of depth within your character. And therefore, you know, because sometimes, you know, Jupiter can be a bit of, can overpromise and can exaggerate things. But if you've got Pluto also there, aspecting the midheaven, then there's more authenticity there, and people are not going to necessarily see you as being too much of an over-exaggeration. So Neptune, Pluto, and Jupiter all aspecting the midheaven is really pointing to a certain amount of spiritual guide, spiritual guru of some sort. But I think more in terms of wellness, like I mentioned to you before. I'm just getting this vibe from your chart that you are here to bridge this mind, body, and soul with regards to people. And Moon in the 6th house. You know, the 6th house is ruled by Virgo. Virgo rules the mind, soul, body connection. Need I say more there? So you've got this energy that's very nice there. And I do feel, sometimes when we look at the 5th, 11th house axis, like you've got a lot of planets in this axis, we're also looking at someone who can be very good with business as well. A bit of a risk taker with Uranus there in the 5th house. So if you were to start your own business of some kind, I do feel that you can do that. So with regards to a lot of things I'm seeing in your chart, if you were to start a business, I think it would be something along the lines of a business where maybe it's online, because Sun, Jupiter, Mercury opposes Uranus, and Uranus rules the 11th house. The 11th house also has to do with technology, and Mercury opposes Uranus has to do with mathematical mind, or it isn't Pisces, can be scientific mind even. But either way, I think you have a good grasp of technology, and maybe you can use that in a sense to start your business, promote your business, if you were to start one. And if you could do that, then maybe you could consider doing a business that has to do with you being the creator, because you need to create. Pluto in the 5th house. You need to create. So you are the creator of or the teacher. So you're either creating something or you're teaching something to people. Maybe you're doing both. Maybe you're mentoring, but you're also creating something in which the product has a certain message. So there's a deeper message behind whatever you create or teach. That is of a, so the product might have, you know, so the outcome of the product maybe has to do with healing, or maybe has to do with, maybe it's sexual healing, or maybe it's just, like I mentioned before, a form of exercise, of something that people practice, or maybe it's an art. But there's the message behind whatever you create or whatever you teach is coming from a philosophy, because you have a voice to give to the world. And maybe you are here to share a certain amount of information to the world with regards to like minimalist living, how to live with better well-being, maybe using the internet to do that. Maybe you gather a certain amount of data, or you do a bit of a research and then you share that information with the world in some ways with regards to how to live better, have better well-being. You're here to sort of bring healing to the group. Make sure that nobody's feeling left out, and make sure that everybody's individuality is being taken into account in the group, because Chiron is in the same sign as your sun. And you know, in astrology, sometimes I look at declinations in the charts. Besides from just looking at the planets and the degrees, we can look at the declinations to sort of look for existing patterns to see which part of a person's chart is very dominant and strong. So you have a Sun conjunct Jupiter in the natal chart, and then in the declinations you have a Sun parallel Jupiter. So this means that Sun Jupiter is very important here. But in the declinations you also have a Sun parallel to Chiron and a Jupiter parallel to Chiron. And here we've got Sun, Jupiter, Chiron all in the same sign in the 11th house in Pisces. So and as you know, Chiron is the asteroid of the wounded healer. So our greatest wounds can be healed if we can heal other people through using Chiron, because the Chiron type of healing heals others because it understands, it has felt the pain. So with Chiron in the 11th house, you know, you may not have always been someone that, you know, you may not have always felt like you fit in with people. And I think that could be because you have a maybe you want to go your own way sometimes, and you have a passion about you and an energy that maybe people find intimidating. So that could maybe make you feel like left out, and that you can't, you know, even though you may be within a group of people, you may feel like, well, you just don't quite belong, but you have to, because your sun is there in the 11th house, and you will in your life. And so therefore, to heal from this wound, and as a part of it becomes a part of your life purpose, because the sun is how we want to shine, is a part of our life purpose. So healing is a part of your life purpose. And you know, it's in the 11th house in Pisces, so it's opposing planets in Virgo in the 5th house. So like I mentioned, this kind of supports this type of need to heal other people through the mind soul body connection. And another thing I do want to mention is that I also like to look at midpoints in the chart to see like a sensitive part of a person's personality. So midpoint is when we take two planets, right? And then we see, if we blend those two planets together, we get a point in the middle. And if there are any planets in your chart that's sitting on the midpoint between two planets, that planet in the midpoint becomes a very important planet, and it could be a gift that you've got, because the energy is so, it's a juicy blending spot of the two planets. So I was looking at your Saturn and Jupiter midpoint, because as you know, Saturn is your dominant planet, and you know, Jupiter is also doing a lot in your chart. It's also conjuncts your sun, and it's making aspects to your midheaven. So when you mix Saturn and Jupiter together and you get the midpoint of that, we find a place where in our chart, well, first of all, it's a place where we can make our ambitions come true, because we're dreaming big, which is Jupiter, but we're also you know, working hard. That's Saturn. So it's a spot where it's our dreams lie, but it's also the spot where we mix our moral principles, where we integrate our moral principles into our life. We balance openness with a critical mind. And so that makes for a very good, juicy spot for being able to make big dreams come true. Because we're practical, but we dream big. And the midpoint of your Jupiter and Saturn falls in Pisces at about 6 degrees. And that is where your Mercury sits. So Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury makes for a good businessman, business person. So that's why I said you can definitely start your own business. But at the same time, you know, Mercury in the 11th house there in Pisces, you have a voice to give, and your voice can be one that is very supportive, yet practical for people. You have a voice that can encourage and support others, but is also useful and says things that can really be of practical help and use to people. It's a gift of also being able to choose the right people to work with or to network with, to be able to choose the right like-minded individuals that you can work with, to maybe support a certain cause or a movement. And I think maybe it has to do with well-being with regards to your cause or your movement. And it also makes for a great person who distributes information of all kinds. Mercury in the 11th house in Pisces. Being able to have lots of projects going on at once and being able to gather data and information. Maybe it's an information that can also be factual because it opposes Uranus in Virgo, but also intuitive information. So you're kind of like a messenger. I do see this, yeah, I do see this gift within you to be sort of this messenger where you deliver a message to the society based on both being able to analyze, gather, analyze, synthesize information, but also being able to synthesize the information with intuition. So knowing which information may not be true, knowing which information might be true, and knowing how to communicate the information so that it touches people at a level where they can actually do something with that information to benefit their own life. The ideal messenger, shall we say, and that can bring a certain amount of healing to people. So there's a lot of gifts in your chart right there. So let's talk a little bit about your transits then. So when you've got a lot of planets transiting your midheaven, especially when it's Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, but you know, this transit has already sort of finished. They've already gone past your midheaven. So that means that you're sort of thinking about the foundation of your reputation and what you want to contribute to the world. So Saturn is like the columns of your house. So you've got let's say a career, a profession, and then Saturn is like the columns that supports your profession. So it's kind of like the principles that you have for why you want to have this profession, and it's like the material support as well. You know, things like how much money you're going to make from it, how you're going to be seen in the world, and that's the columns of the house. It's how it's going to be supporting your reputation, right? You're considering that foundation, that column again, because, you know, maybe the lifestyle that you would like to have is not compatible with the career that you have. Maybe you don't need as much money as you think, or maybe you don't have enough money. So these material, practical things are being reconsidered. But at the same time, when Pluto is coming in, so Pluto's going to ask you to go deeper than the foundation of the house. Pluto's going to ask you to go to the underground and really see the deeper unconscious motivations for why you may have chosen the career or the profession that you have chosen. Is it because, you know, of some kind of insecurity? But with Pluto in the 5th house, you know, like I mentioned earlier, it could be this deep desire for appreciation or recognition, that you may do things that you get recognized for and get appreciated for, but it still feels like something is missing because maybe that's not what you were really born here to do. And I do think that, you know, the thing that really frustrates all of us most about the world, that is one of the really good ways of knowing what you're born here to do. To change that itchy, frustrating part of society, that's what, you know, can point you to that calling that you have in your life. But yeah, so Pluto's asking you to think about if you've been doing having a job or profession that is just for appreciation or recognition, but it's not really authentic, or you're not doing it from your soul, then, you know, Pluto will destroy the Saturn, what you've built with regards to Saturn, the money, you know, the reputation, the status, and say, let's get real here. Let's be really authentic and do something from our soul, and not from fear. Let's not do something because we fear that we will never get recognition or appreciation, so we want to do the most acceptable thing so we can get the recognition and the appreciation. Let's not do that. Let's scrap that out. You know, life's too short for that. Let's take a risk. Let's do something that maybe it's a little bit strange or a bit taboo, like something regarding something regarding the metaphysics, maybe. Just because you know, I really feel that this is going to support what I believe is the best thing that could help humanity progress and for the society to be a better place. And then Saturn starts to build on from that again. And so you have a Saturn in Aquarius. That means that you're about to approach your second Saturn return. And that would probably happen with the beginning of 2021. Around next year, that's when Saturn's going to fully be in Aquarius and will pass over your natal Saturn. The transit Saturn will pass over your natal Saturn. So the second Saturn return is really interesting. It's this part of your life where you're evaluating what you've done so far in your life. And it's kind of like this feeling that this could be your last chance to really become your own authority and become the authority that you would like to see in the world. With Saturn in the 10th house, the kind of authority that you would like to see in the world that doesn't exist yet. And you feel that you are mature enough to become that authority. Because if you could do that, then at the end of your life, you'll feel like, oh, that was a life lived very well. That's the kind of life that I've always wanted to live. And there's nothing missing anymore. And it can be a beautiful time with regards to the second Saturn return. You know, a lot of people are very happy, you know, at this time of their life, you know, because they really get to be themselves. We have established our place in the world, and we have gained a certain amount of recognition already, and therefore we can take this to a new level. Well, not we, I mean you. You can take this to a new level, meaning that you can now really make an impact. It is a time where you're here to spread your wisdom. You are here to really, you know, reach that place of full self-acceptance, and now you're here to spread your wisdom. So that's what's happening there. And you know, if Saturn goes into your 11th house, you know, well, a lot of planets are going to be passing over into your 11th house, and this is a very good time. Sorry, in your 10th house, and then they're going to go into your 11th house. So this is a really great time to take up any opportunities that may come to you with regards to people coming in to support you, networking with people, putting yourself out there, and any career opportunities that come up will all be very beneficial in some ways. So with regards to your progressed chart for this year, you've got your progressed moon going into the 5th house. Very nice. That is really a fun place to have your moon. That's a really good time to be very creative, have fun, and because you already have Pluto within your natal 5th house, so I feel like this is really going to allow you to have that space where you can really create from your soul, and for you to have a lot of, you know, be able to express your emotions through some kind of creative outlet of any kind. You have Venus, you know, Jupiter coming very close to your Venus, not conjunct, but they're definitely in the 10th house, and they're in the same sign, so great for popularity. This is a very likable image. So the other thing that I do want to touch on is your part of fortune. So the part of fortune is a circle, and it's got a cross in the middle. So the part of fortune is when you take your sun, moon, and your rising sign, and you combine and you blend it together, and then you get this point in your chart and this sign where it is the most easily, naturally expressed by you. And if you can express this part of fortune, you will gain a lot of fortune, be very attractive to people. People are going to be very attracted to this part of you that you show to the world, and you can really shine and find happiness. And your part of fortune is in Sagittarius, in the 8th house, 1 degree Sagittarius. This is showing me that, you know, yeah, that you are somebody who, combined with other things in your chart, have a certain amount of calm or ability to withstand difficult situations in life. So there is a certain amount of wisdom within you in that sense, that, you know, yeah, like you can deal with emergency situations, things that are underground. And so that's why, you know, when I talk about that midheaven, and I talked about how you have to go underground to figure out what your calling is, and about, you know, Pluto and the kind of art that you create. So I do feel that, you know, if your work or the work that you do can reflect the difficulties that you've come through in life, or it can reflect your understanding of the dirty stuff or the dark stuff of society, of humanity, and if you do that with a certain amount of Sagittariusness, so with enthusiasm, with passion, with a feeling like you understand the bigger meaning or the bigger perspective for all the hardships in the world, or for all the difficult stuff that people have to go through, and I think that that is going to draw a lot of people to you. And you have Uranus in a square to your part of fortune, so whichever planet is in a very close, touching your part of fortune very closely, is a planet that is a natural part of your personality. So Uranus being in a square to the part of fortune naturally makes you someone who is a humanitarian. You have, and like we talked about, you got a lot of Aquarius signatures there. 11th house, you know, Saturn, Aquarius with Venus there. So, and then you've got Uranus in a square to the part of fortune. So, you know, the humanitarian side of you is very strong. You want to help, you want to give, and I do feel that you could even be that person who, when there is a crisis in the world, like we've got this pandemic going on right now, or, you know, sometimes when we have earthquakes in certain countries, natural disasters that goes on in the world, where it requires a certain amount of courage, situations that require a certain amount of courage, a certain amount of a calm, level-headed approach. You can be that person to go in and use, you know, your bravery, but also your care and love for humanity to address and help people in this way. And this can also point to a natural gift in the metaphysics again. I'm going to repeat that again. So delving a bit into the occult and how the occult can be maybe brought into society in a way that it really helps make the world a better place, progress the world somehow. And the other thing I do want to address is with regards to, I guess I should have talked about this earlier, but your Jupiter is in conjunct to your moon. And I think that this also adds to the fact that you are your own teacher. You know, you learn a lot from your own life, and you have that to offer. The self-soothing, shall we say, the self-soothing skills would have been developed, would have needed to be developed in your life over time. So that's why I say you become your own teacher, because when, you know, you may find that, oh, the traveling or the needing other people to bring you a certain amount of security, it just causes you to go on a roller coaster ride where your emotions and your feelings go up and down, up and down. And when you reach, you know, some kind of existential crisis in your life, you realize that, okay, you're gonna need to have to develop your own belief system. And you're gonna need to live according to your belief system. You're gonna need to establish some kind of moral code to live by. And take responsibility for your own feelings. You can establish a belief system, and then you back up that belief system with ethical behavior and integrity. So you can go from having a habit of doing things that may not be, shall we say, the most ethical or moral, to being somebody who is very moral and very ethical by learning to do this by yourself, by learning to be emotionally independent and knowing how to soothe yourself. And so you become your own teacher, and therefore there's a certain amount of wisdom that you gain through that, and therefore, you know, in the later stages of your life, you can see outside of your own culture. You can see the sameness or the equality of the people, and so you can offer that kind of a healing to people, where you don't consider this person to be from this country, this person to be of this culture, of this religion, but everybody is a human being. And that could be your message here. Your message might be that everybody might be in the belief in humanity. Maybe humanity is your religion. Maybe humanity is your belief system. And maybe that is your message, the message that you want to send across to the world with regards to any type of medium you use or any business you create, any artwork, any spiritual techniques you develop or you create. Maybe the message behind all of that is, can we love each other just because everybody is a human being? You have a very powerful aura, you have very powerful energy, you can be a leader, you can be very popular and well liked, and I really do feel that, you know, these are your missions in life, and this is what you were born here to do. So I guess that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, of course, you can always email me or you can Instagram me, and we can talk a little bit about it and discuss any of the questions you may have throughout this video. And once again, I hope that you're staying safe and taking precautions. And yeah, have a beautiful day. Bye.